Tomorrow will be the first school day back to school after the horrific shooting in Newtown, Connecticut for many kids. And even those who did not witness the tragedy or were not involved, they could still be traumatized by just hearing about it. So how can we as parents talk to our kids and help them cope with this? Tom Kersting is a psychotherapist and a school counselor. It's great to have you with us, Tom, to give us some advice.
Yeah, you know, I think my perspective is a little unique, considering I work in private practice as a therapist in a school system, and I have young children in elementary school.
Then you're the perfect person. So let's talk about it. Let's break it down by age, because I think that it does depend upon how old your kids are. For kids who are under 8 years old, that's my kids, that's Dave's kids, what should we be telling them about this?
I think what we need to do, kids under 8, we need to insulate them from this problem. I mean, I think some parents feel the need to kind of talk to their young kids about this, but I'm big on maintaining our kids' innocence, especially at a young age. So, you know, some of the things that parents can do is just really be aware of what you're doing during the course of the day. If you have the television on and you're watching, you know, clips of the Connecticut shooting,
turn it off.
Turn it off.
And so if you can insulate them, if they're under 8, and never mention it, that's what you should do. But if they've somehow seen news reports, then how do you talk to them?
You know, if they bring it up to you, you know, talk to them about it. But again, you don't want to overdo it with them. You know, you don't want to instill fear upon young kids. We want our kids going back to school. That's the important component.
So answer briefly.
Answer briefly. You know, at the same time, you know, do respect their emotions, obviously. And if they want to talk to you about it, go ahead and talk to them about it.
Let them take the lead. If your children are 8 years old through 12 years old, if they're adolescents, how are you supposed to talk to them?
Well, that's a little different. Again, you don't want to overdo it with these kids. You can talk to them about it. You probably want to initiate it with them to see how they're feeling. But at the same time, you don't want to continue to overdo the process and talk to them like you would talk to your husband or your wife about it. We want to make sure that our kids feel safe. That's you know, key number one. You want to make sure that you're aware as a parent of your own anxiety. We feel the energy from others around us. Our kids are going to feel our own fears and our own anxiety. So we really need to step up to the plate here. And our kids are going to see if we don't feel safe, they're not going to feel safe.
What about grief? Are they allowed to see you grieving, or should you keep a stiff upper lip around them?
Well, again, I mean, you know, you don't want to be shedding tears all over the house, you know, and creating an atmosphere that's just doom and gloom. It's okay to grieve to some extent, but do it on your own. You know, let your husband be the one that you're hugging.
That's good. 12 years old and older, teenagers, how do you talk to them?
12 years old and older, these kids get it. They understand. I think this is an opportunity now to maybe talk to them about it, to see what they're feeling, to see what their take is on this problem. And I think an important component, too, you know, with kids in the teenage years, you know, there's a tendency to throw jokes around and be immature. You know, I think we really need to drive home, you know, to these young, budding adolescents that this is serious stuff. This is not something to be taken lightly. Have your kids do some community service. You know, have them take an opportunity to help out and you know, make a difference in the world.
That's a great one. I mean, that's a great one, to turn the grief into action somehow and show them the way to do that.
We're going to see a lot of schools doing this. I'm sure in my high school where I work, there's going to be a lot of things going on. Kids are going to be really stepping up to the plate. And so hopefully some good can come out of this.
One of the things we just raised in the previous segment, Dave Briggs was asking, will these kids ever go back to Sandy Hook Elementary School? Should they go back?
I was just talking to somebody about this recently, and I believe that this is something the schools are going to need to do. They're going to really need to get creative, because there are kids that will not be able to enter that school. There's no way they're going to be able to enter that school. Their emotions are shot. Their minds are now, you know, they've been exposed to this. It's just not going to be possible. So the schools are going to have to come up with some sort of a plan, because we can't try to force these kids, you know, to go back to this school where they witnessed a traumatic experience like this.
In situations like this, I think that sometimes they do a name change of the school. Sometimes they do an entire venue change, because the PTSD, for lack of a better word, brings up all
substantial PTSD. This isn't just going to be like, you know, a lightly treated post-traumatic stress. This is going to be long-lasting, deeply embedded, and we have to make sure that we eliminate the triggers. So a trigger could be just, you know, approaching and seeing the building itself for many of these kids. They're not going to be able to enter that building. So I'm sure the school officials or other school officials are already discussing measures on how to handle this.
Last, after a trauma like this, how long should kids take off from school? How long?
Again, you know, there's not really an answer to that, how long they should take off. But we do, I mean, we've had Hurricane Sandy. I'm not sure if if they missed a lot of school days. But again, we need to, the most important thing here, I think, is families coming together. School should be secondary. Get them back when the time is right, and, you know, and focus more on your family and being together and everybody healing.
Understood. Tom Kersting, you're a school counselor and psychotherapist. Thanks so much for coming in with the advice.
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you. Families will have a difficult road ahead as they try and come to grips with this tragedy. We're live in Newtown next, talking about the role of faith.